to it as hockey fans, as far as the tournament thing, I don't care what anybody says. Whoever comes out of this tournament deserves the Stanley Cup, man, because this is going to be a blast. You got the best teams, and even more so for the team that ends up at the top because of the fact of the round robins and the early rounds, and you might get a team like the Rangers in there or whatever. So there's just so much coming at you. So you look at it that way, KD, coming from all of us who've played, high school sports and tournaments, and whether it's lacrosse, soccer, hockey, or anything, travel teams and all that stuff. We've all played in these tournaments. This is awesome. So as far as the format's concerned, I'm all for it. And, man, we get to watch hockey again. We don't need anybody in the building. Doesn't matter to me, right? We're getting to watch the game, and I think it's going to be awesome. And I think you're right, too. I think the NHL pushing this out, this is a model that the NBA could use. This may be a model at Major League Baseball, but I'm hoping by the fall, we are going to have football and baseball playing. So we'll see what happens. But, yeah, man, I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I'm wondering, we saw just you talking about some of the players. You saw with Major League Baseball, you had the one player can't come out and was talking about not wanting to play, Snell. And it was more about money than anything, but I think it was more putting myself in danger versus not getting my full salary type thing. And I'm just wondering if we're going to get that from any NHL player. I mean, I haven't heard anything yet. If a player is going to come out and say, look, I don't feel comfortable playing. I don't feel, I don't feel safe putting myself in that position. And then how the league reacts to that. What are they going to do if a player, and big time, like, what if Sidney Crosby comes out and says, I'm not playing. I don't feel comfortable playing. I'm not going to put myself in that position. Sorry. Like, what do they do? Like, I'm wondering where Bettman would stand on something like that. Does that player forfeit his salary? Does the union come to that player's defense? Like, how is that going to work?
Well, that's a lot of the stuff that was in that column today with Donald Fear.
Okay, and I didn't see the column, so
yeah, no, that's okay, man. No, but that's a lot of the questions were answered. Now, I didn't see the Q&A with Bettman and Daly afterwards, but I did read through the column today with Donald Fear.
Now, did he bring that up as a question, or did he have that answer?
No, it was more or less, exactly like what's going to happen because they're not there yet. So he was basically saying in the column today, he says we've got to get through stages here. So. There was obviously a discussion and a vote, and the players in the league came back that, okay, let's post this, let's organize this in the hopes that everything's going to work out, and if we can get there, we'll do it. But Fear brought up all those other things.
Did he mention what happens if, or a question if a player ends up? Yeah, so he didn't even. Was one of the questions that he mentioned was what happens if a player does test positive?
Again, they're still working that out because that's what everybody else. I mean, you could look at the Bundesliga. The Germans have opened up over there, and now the Premier League is going to be starting training camp too. So they're still working that out. Now, I think one or two guys have tested positive, and I think they've quarantined a team. I believe, just from what I kind of heard. But again, this goes to what they were talking about today in terms of, they really wanted, at least Fear did on the player side, wanted to let everybody know, just take it easy now because we got to get through some other stages here because, they're not even there yet. But, they had to start somewhere. This was all done in agreement with the Players Union today in terms of announcing this. They had an NHL Players Committee help the NHL League put this thing together. So all their reps went back and forth to all the teams. Granted, there were two teams that voted against it. And we still don't know, as far as the depth of the rosters and who may or may not go. And I've heard that from other stars in other games. Like I said, if, my wife's pregnant or whatever, because there are these issues of self-quarantine for 2 weeks. And so let's say you do leave your family. Let's say somebody on the training staff gets sick. It's not even a player. And then, they have to make that decision. So I don't think they really have the contingency plan ready for that yet. I think that's all part of going forward. So it's almost like, all right, here's a great idea. Here's the logistics. There's the cities. This is how we would do it. But we've still got to hold tight to what the CDC and local health officials say, and the testing is going to be a huge thing. And then, it's still, the testing as far as all of us, even not in non-sports, is still, where are you getting tested? What are you getting tested for? If you get tested one day, does that mean you're not tested the next day? There's so much going on here. So, but I think that's why the time, these next 3 weeks, the end of June, and that's why they don't think training camps actually would even start until the middle of July.
Yeah.
If they did. Yeah,
well, and you're dealing with the travel restrictions too. I saw like in Canada, they have the 14-day quarantine. So, I was reading, Bettman's like, I don't even know if we'd be able to have, one of the hub cities being in Canada, because then every team that went up there would have to quarantine for 2 weeks. So how would you do that? So yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of details that they have to get ironed out here, getting players back from Europe or, wherever they are. So yeah.
Well,
it's good to be talking about it, though.
Oh yeah, man. No, there's no doubt about it. It was fun just the last 24 hours seeing, all the Twitter feeds come back to life and the shows starting up again and conversations. And man, I flipped on, Sirius XM NHL yesterday for the first time in 3 months, all that stuff. So it was good to hear the guys' voices again and talking hockey and just everybody's kind of, take on how this works. And, all of us that are just fans, number one, just the thought of watching the team. And I personally here, me, you, KD, and all our fans that have been listening to us and all Ranger fans just here, I mean, when you start thinking about this team, and yes, we can be selfish, and I know there's all the other teams, and some of the teams are having great years too, but, man, we were just having a blast with this squad, and it was just fun. It's done, Game against Colorado, the overtime celebration. We talked about that on one of our last shows. And now it's just fun to see the guys skating and all those good memories start coming back. And then you start thinking about, okay, the future and just not thinking about this freaking pandemic and the politics and just, everybody getting, in different situations. And I mean, the world outside is just mad. It's crazy. So this is just a great release to be able to just talk hockey again, and even if it's in the development stage, but eventually just again just talking about these great players that we love and the game, and getting excited about the possibility of the puck dropping again here in the summer. And you're gonna be out in the patio with the TV and a couple of White Claws, man, and the feet up, man, and the flip flops. Gonna be good, man.
Oh yeah. I mean, look, it's definitely a much needed distraction. It's been a rough couple of months, and I think that actually led to, I talked about why we weren't doing the show. When you reached out to me about doing it, I was definitely in like a rut. You just get into it in this staying at home, not seeing other people. You lose any sort of desire to do anything. And I was just like, why do I even want to do, this podcast? It's just like,
I don't even
we're not, there's no hockey. Why? I barely want to get off the couch, I don't even want to play with my kids anymore because I'm sick of them, and it's just like, as humans, you like need something to do, some distraction to be able to go out, some social interaction, this and that. And that's what, sports is bringing up. As soon as it happened, like you said, my friends and I, we were all texting each other about like, oh my God, do you see they're back and they're playing the Hurricanes and this is what's going to happen. This is awesome. And actually one of the things we were texting about is that, is this going to be seen as a legitimate Stanley Cup champion? Is there going to be an asterisk next to the winner? And we all said there'd be an asterisk next to the winner of any team other than the Rangers. So, but it was definitely just fun to be, just texting about hockey again, about like not, hey, remember in '94 with Leeds. No, it's this season again. It's going to be coming back. This is going to be amazing. So, and I mean, look, we had discussed it a couple of times on the show, and I said that maybe they shouldn't hand out a Stanley Cup, and if they did like a tournament, a coronavirus tournament type thing. And look, maybe at the end I'll change my tune after going through the tournament style that they have set up. And I'm like, you know what, this team deserves, or, whoever it is deserves to raise the Stanley Cup. But, I think that there's always going to be people that are just like, oh, you shouldn't have this. Just stop it now. Let's focus on next season. Because now this season, if they do get going, is going to go into the fall. And now you have to take time out after the fall season because, one is that you're worried about a second wave and that sort of flu season is in that time, that, November, December, January time. So you probably don't want them playing anyway. And then your next season doesn't start to what? January, February. So is next season abbreviated? So I think you're now sort of messing with two seasons instead of, just wiping the slate clean here and say, look, we're just going to end it and let's try to get hockey back in, October. But again, then it arises, does that season get stopped ultimately anyway if this thing blows up again for a second wave? So look, if they can get a season in, this year and get a Stanley Cup champs, I think that would do a lot, for people's sort of psyche, their mental well-being, and it's going to be, it hopefully will be a great thing to see.
No, absolutely, and I don't think there should be any asterisk. Look, all the teams here played 68 and 70 games. I think that's more than they played back in '95. I can't remember exactly. So, as far as I'm concerned, if you want to add that regular season onto it, that's already done. The teams that weren't going to make it, they weren't going to make it. I mean, and then you can take the side of the regular season doesn't mean nothing. Well, absolutely. So go home. You weren't going to make it anyway. There's a couple of teams there, though, that are sighing a big sigh of relief, obviously, because there were a couple of teams like the Rangers that were, catching up on a couple of teams, what was going on there with the Islanders and Carolina and stuff like that. And so there was some crazy stuff going on. At least they're in right now. And, the round robin, the best of five, you're still going to have to play these series. Granted, the home ice advantage, all that stuff is not going to be there and anything else, but come on, everybody. Home ice hasn't meant anything in the NHL playoffs for years. So you can throw that out the window. And as far as this going on, next season or whatever, if this works out, because they've done a 70-game season here, right? There's no reason, if they have to start in December or even January, if they got to cut 20 games off the season, make it a 60-game season or whatever, just for 1 year, so the following year you can get back to a regular season or whatever. I don't think anybody's going to really have a problem with that if they take 15, 20 games off the season. So, they give the players a month to 2 months off break or whatever. Granted, those are meetings I will not have to attend, But I certainly believe that they can do it, and I give them credit again for putting this thing forward. And look, man, give me hockey, man. And like I said, if it all works out for everybody, and that's it. So you take all the health stuff aside, and that's the obvious thing that's going to work out, one way or the other for any of this thing to happen. What's your take, Kevin, on the tournament and where the teams ended up being placed? Did you look that stuff over and just get your idea and maybe just have a little fun with, at least on the Eastern Conference side here about how this thing might unfold?
Yeah, I did look at it, and the first thing that I noticed was that they did point percentage as the seeding goes, not just straight points, because obviously some teams played more games than others, so they did point percentage-wise, and the Rangers were 0.002 percentage points away from playing the Islanders in the play-in game, and that would have been insane. Yep. Because, for everything going on, no hockey for a couple of months, for us to come back to Ranger Islander 5-game series to get into that first round would have been madness, and I would have signed up for that wholeheartedly. I tweeted that out, and I had a bunch of Ranger fans saying they would not have liked that because of the stress level involved.